Hey everyone, this is your Raven of the Night, and welcome to another installment of Raven Reviews. This series is where I take songs used in movies, TV shows, anime, any kind of media, and rate them. For this particular video, I'm going to be continuing with the fairy tale anime series and rate the second opening, Sense of Wonder by Idoling. This particular opening is relevant for episodes 12 through 24. In case you missed my description last time, here's how this is going to work. I'll be looking at the song through a pre-arc lens. This means I'll be talking about it as if it's the first time I've heard it. Next, there will be a post-arc lens, and here I will be talking about the song as though I've seen all of the episodes connected to it. I'll average the two ratings to get one final rating. The lower the score, the lower I place it on my personal ranking of the songs and opening. Also, just to be clear, most of the songs that I rate on this channel are going to be songs that I really like, or at the very least they are from shows that I really like. So even if they get a low score, that doesn't necessarily mean I don't like it. It just means that objectively it might not be as effective as another kind of opening or another kind of song. And again, spoiler alert, you have been warned. Pre-arc lens on. Let's get started. So this opening, in my opinion, is very similar to that of the first opening. It's bright, colorful, upbeat. Again, there's a very neat lineup of the main characters, but in contrast to the last opening, we get a very clear-cut showing of the abilities of each of the characters. This is a nice reminder of what each of them can do, although I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary because this is the second opening and not the first. A couple of scenes with the guild, most likely trying to introduce more characters in this way. Also, there are a couple of other scenes of the team just living their lives in random chaos. Now, this next part is where things get a little bit interesting. There are sudden cuts of each of the members of the team. There's Natsu with Igneel, then with a white-haired girl. There's also Lucy with a dark shadow behind her, Gray with a white-haired guy, an older woman with dark hair. Then it cuts back to Urza and Seagrain, or maybe Jalal, because apparently they're very similar. These are all very solemn and serious cuts, as the main characters' expressions can tell us. Then there's a scene with the Magic Council. Maybe they play a bigger role this time around, other than just fake arresting Urza. There's yet another sweeping shot of all the members of the guild, but there are two faces that stand above the rest. There's Loxus and there's Mystigan, two people that could be the guild's strongest wizards. Maybe they play bigger roles in the progression of the show at this time, maybe not, who knows. Maybe it's just a matter of reintroducing us to them. Then there's a shot of the guild hall and a flash of the guild hall in shambles. It looks like there are giant holes going through it, like pieces of metal. So that's actually kind of interesting. Maybe that hints at a certain conflict. There are some silhouettes of people with one person standing out, a guy shown with what I would call a rock star kind of look or persona. Natsu and him trade blows, and there's a shot of the rest of the team looking on in seriousness or fear. While Natsu and this other person are smiling, the other's facial expressions lead me to believe that this is a very, very serious fight. Natsu, from what I can tell, is the kind of guy that would smile through any fight for one reason or another, so his expression is a tad bit misleading, but with everyone else, it looks like that this is actually a serious fight where Natsu's actually going to have to face some kind of challenge. Something I'm not a huge fan of with this opening is the upbeat, almost childlike song. Based off of the title, I can assume that the song is about being curious and following a path to satisfying your own sense of wonder. I feel like the song isn't that connected with the general theme of the show. It left off with a dark moment regarding Gray's past, yet there's this song that's all happy-go-lucky, and throughout the opening itself, it references very dark moments with each of the individual main characters. The song by itself isn't bad, but in context, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So here are my personal ranks. I'm going to give a half point because it introduces the characters, but not in a new way. The way of showcasing their abilities might have been better for the first opening because it gives more information then. Here it's just kind of taking up space for the sake of taking up space. Then I'm going to give one more point because there's a solid conflict established between that black-haired guy and Natsu. There's also allusions to individual backstories and even tragedies, so that's something I can appreciate. I'm going to give another point because it's a very bright and appealing opening, but again, this is kind of a really rough singular point because it doesn't really seem to match the overall theme of the show. I'm going to give half of a point because the song matches the theme of the imagery, but it doesn't seem to connect with the new tone of the show. And I'm going to give one more point because while it is generic, the opening does have more focus and direction to it rather than the first opening. So overall, if you tally all that up, you get 4 out of 5. So let's now make the switch over to the post-arc lens. Okay, there are just a ton of emotions for this opening and series of adventures that the members of Fairy Tail have. Between finding out the dark past of Gray, Lucy running away from a home and parent that neglected her, and the tragic story of the girl Lasana, the series just got a whole lot darker. It's still got its funny moments, but this is a serious twist in comparison to the Lullaby arc. With respect to the opening, I must say that it doesn't add up. Sure, it alludes to the curiosity and even the dangerous decision to take on S-Class without permission. The song theme is very upbeat and talks mainly about how the world is full of things for us to learn, and as humans, we should wonder and learn about everything we possibly can. But still, this is really dark. This is a really dark part of the series, and it takes a serious turn. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that all of this happens with this really upbeat song. So here are my rankings for the post-arc. I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot, just simply because I explained myself pretty much here with the point rankings. I'm going to give 0 points because for most of the episodes related to this arc, the focus is on Gray's story with Deliora. It gets a little more than a brief mention in the opening in favor of showcasing the cast's powers, which have already been established to begin with. And I personally wish that the story plots got a bigger part in the opening. I'm going to give another half point because it alludes to the conflicts present in the arcs, but Gray, Lucy, and even the guild situation with Lasana are major events related to this opening. But this time around, they kind of barely get a mention. The exception to this is the Phantom Lord situation, but it's only just now going down and is referenced at the end of the opening. Just at the very end. But this time around, they barely get a mention. I'm going to give another point because it does show and support the growth of the characters through the development of their personal backstories. The one person we know next to nothing about is Urza, but hopefully she will get the spotlight in an upcoming opening, because the first opening features Natsu primarily. This opening features kind of everybody in a way, but it's also Gray and Lucy, so I'm hoping that Urza gets her own moment in order for us to understand who she is and where she came from. Then I'm going to give another half point because the song itself is still kind of catchy, but because of how different it is from the tone of the show, I can't give it a full point. And then I have to give a 0 because overall, when considering both the visual and the music, I would think that this show is more happy-go-lucky. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly an upbeat show, but there have been some serious dark moments here. sacrificing of lives, gray noticeably, lingering guilt of what has been deemed murder, gray and Elfman with Or and Lisana respectively, and even Natsu, who's considered one of the silly, ignorant characters of the show, has had some major insightful moments that act as good life lessons. So since the opening doesn't really match the progressing tone of the show, I have to give it a 0. I don't like giving it a 0, but speaking as objectively as I possibly can, I can't do anything else. So if you tally these post-arc lens ratings up, it's a 2 out of 5, which means if you add the 4 and the 2, this is a 6 out of 10 or a 60%. I really, really liked this opening the first time that I heard it, but as time went by, it really lost its appeal, and I started wishing that there was a bit more interesting character to the opening, rather than this general, generic opening. So that's pretty much all I have to say on the matter. Do you agree with what I've said? Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Is there something else I should consider while grading these openings? Let me know if there are any other openings, soundtracks, or songs that you want me to review. And now, like a raven, I fly into the darkness.